lightly on composition. So we have a lot to cover in 4 days, and so I think as you were doing the reading comprehension activity, you began to see some of the composition activities as well. And what I wanted to point out is that in your training manual, you have a list of different types of composition. So there can be composition where you're just beginning to get ideas on paper, and maybe you're writing out words or lists or phrases, not necessarily writing whole sentences. And so there's a whole list of ideas of things that show up in either foundations or essentials. You know, maybe creating a map, or, you know, and labeling it, or writing tongue twisters, or writing a design, or creating a poster about something, where they're not needing to write whole sentences yet, but they're still creating and using words and using the ideas that they have. And then there is a lot of composition activities in both essentials and foundations with increasing length, and there's a whole list of those as well. So something else I wanted you to be aware of is in Foundation C, with the new edition with Miles and Jax, there's a whole additional lesson on composition in that edition. If you have the editions, that includes Miles and Jax. And that builds a lot throughout those. They, you know, maybe at the beginning they're writing a list, and at the end they're actually writing and creating a booklet about meerkats and doing original research to discover what a meerkat is. So the composition in Foundations builds very systematically throughout the program as those foundational skills of those students build. And then in the Essentials Reader, we have the same sorts of things. There's just a really wide variety of composition activities, and you'll be able to see some of that even just looking through the workbook. You'll see they create keyword outlines, and then they use those to write a paper on, say, astronauts, or they do compare and contrast. They identify, you know, types of chocolate and do a study and then write about that. So there's all sorts of creative activities, and a lot of times the composition activities, well, pretty much all the time, the composition activities in both foundations and essentials are very integrated with comprehension. So they're using those skills to create something. Is there anything else you want to say about composition? Mm-hmm.
So if you have like a third or fourth grader that come into your school and they are like very low, like they're not reading well, they're not writing well, to just put them in the beginning essentials, might it go too fast if you think it's going to be slow enough for them to just start at essentials? I mean, they're not great, they can hardly read, they can hardly write a sentence. Would you start them there, or would you go back and start even earlier so they get the rules and they get the...
Essentials covers all of the rules and all of the phonograms.
But you would start with the pre-lesson.
Yes, you might need to start with the pre-lessons because they maybe don't have all of the A through Z sounds, or maybe they can't write the letters. So if that pre-test says start with the pre-lessons, begin there. And then move through essentials with them and do the essentials reader, because that gives them comprehension skills and great composition activities that are at their level. And hopefully those will meet up. Also, you know, I think composition is a lot like comprehension. Students can tell you, and you can write out for them their ideas. They can still create and narrate to you. That is wonderful. But as they gain foundational skills, they'll be able to then do that for themselves, and that's really important.
I just want to make sure that that was clear, because I think about my little kindergartners and my first graders who come to me and say, look at the book I wrote.
Yeah.
You know, and then they'll want to add to that. And so as one thing that I noticed is so helpful, and I know that this is totally an LOE thing, is that they think of an idea and they want to write something like, you know, Jack threw the ball or something like that, and they'll know like the TH or whatever. So I'm like coaching them along with that. They are so excited and they go to write it, but then the memory to be able to write that whole sentence is not quite strong enough yet, so that I have to help them. Let's restate what you were going to write. How many words is that? And then have them write. And I just want to make sure that everybody it's clear that let them write. If they want to write stories, let them write.
Oh, absolutely. Let them write. And if they use an ah-oh-oo, because that's the only sound of oo they have at this point, totally fine when they're doing their independent work and writing. So I have a story for you. I was training a independent, say, preschool kindergarten program in a very wealthy area of a city. And the director of the program was really convinced that these kids would benefit from phonograms, systematic instruction of some sort, because they had never had any systematic instruction, no systematic handwriting, nothing. And so she brought me in to do this training, and gosh, the resistance from all these teachers was so fascinating to me. It was just so angsty. But what it came down to was this. Finally, one teacher was like this: what if a child writes me a birthday card? Are you telling me I need to correct their spelling? And I was like, no, I would say thank you. What a lovely card. And then we had this discussion. It was like, that's just appropriate. Like, thank you for the gift. And I said, but if you're in an academic setting and say they spell cat with a K instead of a C, I was like, you can gently say, great idea. That says k. This word actually uses the other spelling of k, the one that says k. Do you remember which one that is? And that concept of correcting without shaming was completely new to them. Like they combined shame with correction with shame. So just be aware, you can correct them, but you don't have to correct everything. And we absolutely should always affirm when they are trying to put their words and their thoughts on paper and they're using all the skills they've been taught, of course.